me your all tonight. I want a smooth ride, electric slide, push back and wine. I want you give me your all tonight. I want you give me your all tonight. Now we dancing step to the left, step to the left. We sliding and we moving. Step to the right, step to the right. We gliding. Now we taking two steps back. We dancing.
WEFM, the new fresh sound.
Rise and shine. Let's get ready to take on the day. Activated Mornings on WEFM 99.9 is on now.
Welcome back, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The time is 7:45, soon to be 7:46 here in St. Vincent and the Eastern Caribbean. If you're just joining us, you're listening to Ariane. With me is Roleza this morning, and we are Activated Mornings. Now we're moving on to, well, this issue was rectified last week, but we've been hearing for the past couple of weeks the back and forth between the PSU and the Argyle International Airport over a said $40,000 to be paid to the workers. They met last Wednesday and came to an agreement, and so the strike threatened by the PSU that would have taken place from Monday to Wednesday this week, well, today to Wednesday, has been called off. So reading from Searchlight newspaper, plans to bring the operations at the Argyle International Airport to a standstill by means of industrial action have been called off as the SVG Public Service Union, or PSU, and the airport management have come to a compromise. A statement said, "We are pleased to report that the AIA and the union have reached an amicable agreement. As a result, industrial action planned for Monday, April 15th has been cancelled." And this is the General Secretary for the PSU, Shelly-Ann Alexander Ross, who issued this statement. The union had given the airport's management an April 12th deadline to settle retroactive payments owed to workers from 2020 to 2022. Or workers would stage industrial action on the following Monday or Wednesday, two of the busiest days at the airport. The union, which represents the majority of more than 200 workers at the Argyle International Airport, said management had failed to meet promises and retroactive payments on salaries when workers moved from the now decommissioned E.T. Joshua Airport to the Argyle International Airport. The union agreed on a forfeiture of payment for the years 2016 to 2018, and the increment for 2019 amounting to 1.5% of the AIA workers' salary was paid in January 2023. The union had said they expected the retroactive payments for 2020 through 2022 to be paid as well, but the AIA management had countered, saying that they had already met their commitment to the workers. While not delving into specifics on the agreement, Alexander Ross said the two parties met on Wednesday, April 10th, 2024, and a settlement was reached on the retroactive component of the payments owed to the workers amounting in around $40,000. The General Secretary also thanked the AIA workers for sticking by the union during the extensive negotiation process. Eyewitness News reported, however, that the announcement came 2 days after Prime Minister Afghanzav expressed confidence that workers at the airport would not engage in industrial action over the non-payment of increments. He said, "Whatever the management decides, it's fine with me. I haven't gotten involved to tell them to accede to the PSU or not, actually, because I haven't studied the issues inside out, and I think they're having discussions and they will give me a report," the Prime Minister said on NBC Radio. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, the point of the threatened strike action was to come to a resolution or for their voice to be heard or for them to be taken seriously. So given that they've reached an amicable decision, yeah, it worked. Right? As I said before, last week when we spoke on this, I don't know if it's a case where, let's say the union wasn't being fair to the process, whatever. I mean, I'm not involved in the finer details of it all, but if a strike action was threatened, however, they've reached to a decision that works in both parties' favors, then yeah, story done, matter closed. Hopefully, everything that has been discussed, it actually comes to fruition and it works in the best interest of all parties involved. So Yeah.
I just hope that the workers getting value for the money, because we have these unions, and we have welfare, and we have different entities set up to protect workers. But then you don't have the workers supporting them out of fear. So we don't even know what was the reason that they came to the agreement. But let's hope that they came to the agreement and it is beneficial to both the workers and the employees, but mainly the workers, because they're the ones who are put in uncomfortable positions and not being paid.
Yeah, but it
Because
seemed like they actually did stand by the union because the general secretary thanked them in the Searchlight article.
they thank them mean, I don't know.
Well, the AI workers were
That could be a
sticking by the
formality.
union.
That could be a formality.
Well, it could be, but let's say they were actually standing their ground and they were going to strike. The union heads were representing them in the way in which they were supposed to. So, yeah.
I just hope it's to the benefit. That's really the much I could say about this. Meanwhile, Kingstown tongue board workers fed up with pay issues. This is a story that was published on Searchlight, April 12th. Says it reads, some employees of the Kingstown tongue board are half past fed up and believe it is high time for management to address their salary concerns. The workers, most of whom are janitorial staff, have highlighted constant late pay, as well as a promised salary increase that has not yet materialized as concerns which continue to vex them. Now, just going to stick up in here. This was one of the main issues I had with the pool and stuff being set up, because you have these so many complaints about persons receiving late pay, persons not receiving any pay at all, but then they have the money to do things like that. That was my initial concern.
Before you heard where the money was coming from.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Now, one male worker told Searchlight they didn't have no respect for we. He explained that workers are paid fortnightly and often wages are not paid until a week and sometimes 2 weeks later. One female worker complained that whenever she brings the late pay concerns to the attention of the representative union or the media, the relationship between them and the management deteriorates further, and they receive little to no communication about outstanding monies owed. Another female worker revealed that after workers aired concerns on local radio in late March, they were called into a meeting with management and scolded. The workers are also hoping to receive an update, to when they will receive wages in accordance with the new Minimum Wages Act, which came into effect March 2024. Under the new legislation, lowest paid categories of workers in St. Vincent and Grenadines are to be paid minimum wage of $50 per day. We're supposed to get raise of pay, and up to now, they ain't do that yet. They say everybody that walk in for under $50 supposed to reach up to $50, and that still ain't come true. As it currently stands, janitorial staff earn a maximum of $45 per day. A male worker related that he spoke with management about when the increases are expected to start. He said he was told that the Prime Minister, Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, has not provided any additional monies to cover the salary increase. The workers are hoping that management will soon provide them timely updates on wage payments and increases.
Well, I'm wondering. Okay, so I know that the funds are coming from the government, but I think it's a bad precedence or bad example being set, where if we're to accept what is being stated in this article as factual, in that the person is saying that their salary has not been increased to the $50 per day, then it's not a good look, or it's not a good precedence that's being set by the government themselves, knowing that they are asking for the private sector in particular to stand by the Minimum Wages Act. So I don't know. I think I'd probably like to hear a bit more in terms of what's happening here. Was it a case where the monies allocated in the budget were not done, or were not, what's the word I'm looking for? They did not account for or take into account the minimum wage going up this year. And even if that's the case, then it's still a little bit of a funny situation because we're into March. And why is it that there is still a delayed payment? And it's what? Now it's April. up to match that they were going through this. So what is it? Was it that money hasn't been properly allocated? Is it a case where they're, let's say, depending on monies that are that you get from tenants of in Kingstown, or those who occupy the market spaces? Is it a case where that helps to pay their salaries? I think I probably need to know a bit more information in terms of where exactly the money is derived for the payment of their salaries, and why is it that they're not getting their salary, number one, on time, and number two, in full.
Well, as far as I know, these issues aren't new. It's been going on for a while now. Persons often complain about Kingstown board, and I assume in its marketing board. And the main thing that stood out to me is one female worker complained that whenever she brings a late pay concern to the attention of the representative union or the media, the relationship between them and management deteriorates further, and they receive little to no communication about outstanding monies owed. This part is always disheartening, because why people employed in certain places tend to treat these businesses or treat these organizations like it's their personal businesses. So them asking for the pay is something personal. You vex with them because they went and spoke about the fact that they're not being paid, or they complain to the union, they complain to the media, and so now you're offering no communications, you're giving them no updates, you're not saying nothing about the payment, forgetting that these people need the money to live. This is why they work, to be paid, to take care of their families, to take care of their responsibilities. How could you now take it personally and then cut communications or minimize communication with them? And you're scolding them about making complaints. How could you scold me about standing up for my rights?
But I wonder who exactly is their union rep, though. Do they have a separate union rep, or is it also the PSU?
Probably PSU.
Yeah,
that's for sure. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the thing of it is that if persons have a union, there's a body to represent them, and they take their matters to the union, then you cannot penalize a person for having a union to stand up for them. So I think it's interesting to see that happening. But, I think we probably need to delve a little bit more into this because from what I'm gathering, it's a repeated issue. And why is it a repeated issue?
Thing is, these things happen and they're repeated issues because, one, there's a disconnect between ministries. Certain communication that's supposed to happen don't happen. Two, there seems to be always a money problem as it relates to certain entities within the government. And three, government workers are generally lazy. So if it is that they could find an easy way to do something, they're going to take that route as opposed to going out and investigating, trying to find out as much as possible. Then there is, unfortunately, the red tape. There's a lot of procedures that follow releasing certain funds that can be both tedious and time-consuming when government officials are trying to get certain things done, or heads of certain places are trying to get things done. The red tape usually stands in their way. There's so many different factors, but...
Well, I know one of the things that tends to happen, and that's why I'm curious as to how they are paid. Because I know that there are some departments, especially statutory corporations, who are paid by a subvention, right? And subventions, let's say, are supposed to be paid on a quarterly basis, but not all departments end up getting the subvention when they are owed it, or they're not being paid in full, right?
Why is that?
Why is that? Because government departments or statutory corporations may budget a certain amount. It would be submitted, but it's not always a case where the government has the full amount to give them, right? So that is why I said I'm curious as to how these persons are being paid. If it's a case where they're being paid by subvention, maybe it is a case where the subvention hasn't come through as yet, or I don't know. But what it is, that is of interest to me. More so is the fact that if they're supposed to be paid the minimum wage, and the minimum wage has gone up, and government themselves are there saying that they have not received what is the stipulated minimum wage, then it's a very bad precedent that's being set for other persons within, let's say, the private sector, because of the fact that government, if nobody else who's supposed to be setting the example, government is supposed to be setting that example.
Well, that's a fair point. The time is now 8 o'clock here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and your time check was brought to you by New Haven Funeral Home.
Death is a fact of life.